Treehouse, Book Number 33, Merlin Mission, Carnival at Candlelight, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 5, Lorenzo. Jack and Danny ran through the square, dodging dancers, fortune tellers, and acrobats. They didn't stop until they were hidden in the middle of the crowd watching the puppet show. As Jack tried to catch his breath, he looked around at all the pirate and animal and clown costumes. He was glad now that he and Danny were dressed in silly outfits too. When they looked at each other, they laughed nervously. "Maybe we shouldn't have skipped ahead," said Jack. "Yeah, you're right," said Annie. "We should have been more patient. Let's go back to the part about the painter Tipolo. Jack nodded. "I think we should go into his house," he said. "Maybe he's there after all. Maybe that clown had the wrong information." "I hope so," said Annie. "The clown said Tipolo lived near the church of St. Francis," said Jack. He pulled out the map and studied it. "Okay, so we're here in St. Mark's Square, and we have to get there." He traced the route with his finger. "Got it. Let's go. Stay in the shadow in case their guards come looking for us." Jack stuffed the book into his backpack, and he grabbed his hands, and together they came to an alley of the square. The wind was blowing harder as Jack and Danny headed down one shadowy alley, then another. They walked between the row of tightly packed shops, cafes, and houses. As they walked farther from St. Mark's Square, the streets became less crowded. After a while, they came to the small footbridge that crossed the canal. As they hurried over the bridge, Jack noticed water washing into the sidewalk. "What's going on with the water?" he said. "Let's ask her," said Annie. She pointed to the young woman locking up the cafe. The woman wore a blue mask and a lacy purple dress. Water was rolling around her high black shoes. "Excuse me," said Annie. "Do you know why there's so much water in the streets?" "Oh, there had been much rain in the mountains," said the young woman. "It's all washed down to the lagoon. It makes water very high." "Is that dangerous?" asked Jack. The woman smiled. "Oh no," he said. "We often have high water here in Venice. You shouldn't worry. You should go to watch the fireworks on the waterfront near St. Mark's. Everyone is going there." "Thanks," said Annie. The woman waved and went on her way. "I guess we can stop worrying about the water," Annie said to Jack. "Yeah," said Jack, but he couldn't help worrying as he saw the clump of seaweed wash past them down the alley. As Jack and Danny walked toward the church of St. Francis, the bell started to chime. Jack counted the bongs. 11. Another bell started to throw. Jack counted 10 bongs. "What time do you think it is really?" he asked. "I don't understand." "Patient, remember?" said Annie. "One thing at a time. We just have to find Tipalo's house now." Soon they came to the small church of St. Francis. The square next to the church was empty except for an old man walking a small fat dog. "Good evening, little clowns," the man said with a friendly smile. "Why aren't you at the waterfront by St. Mark's Square? I've been there myself, except my Rosa are afraid of fireworks." He smiled at his chubby dog. "Actually, we're trying to find a house of a painter named Tipolo," said Jack. "Oh, he's my neighbor," said the old man. "He lived there." He pointed to the dark house after the square. "But You won't find him home. I know. We heard he's away, said Jack. We were just wondering if he was coming back soon. I fear not, said the man. Tipalo said everyone that he would be gone for many months. But you should get along to the fireworks and on the waterfront now. Everyone in Venice will be there to see them. They are quite magnificent on the last night of Carnival. Thanks, said Jack. The old man waved as he and Rosa walked slowly across the square. The church bell began to sound. It rang 11 times. Excuse me, sir, Jack called. Are the clocks in Venice tell different time? Which one is right? None, the old man called. That is one of the wonderful things about our city. Venice is timeless. The man laughed, and he and Rosa went inside the small yellow house. Jack sat down on the bench in the square. He put his head in his hands. Annie sat next to him. I guess we do have to skip Tipolo, she said. What's the next thing Merlin tell us to do? Jack sighed. He pulled out the magician's ladder and read the next 2 lines. At the midnight, 2 men will tell you the time. To the top of the tower, hurry and climb. Oh, great, said Jack. How will we know if it's really midnight? The man just said none of the clocks are right because Venice is timeless. According to Merlin, 2 men will tell us the right time, said Annie. 2 men who own some kind of tower we have to climb. Right, said Jack, but that make no sense either. Who are they? How are we supposed to find them? We'll have to skip that part too. We're skipping our whole mission, whatever it is. A terrible disaster about to happen to some grand lady of the lagoon, and we have no idea who she is. We don't know what the disaster is. We don't know where to find the ruler of seas, or how to find a painter named Tipalo, or even how to tell the right time. We're completely failing Merlin's test. Come down. We have to be patient, said Annie. Everything will make sense soon. How soon? Said Jack. He felt cold and wet and miserable. Very soon, said Annie. In fact, I think I see the light now inside Tipalo's house. She stood up. I definitely see the light. Annie ran over to the small house off the square. She peeped through the window. Jack, she called to the loud whispered, come here. Jack walked over her. Someone's painting in there, said Annie. Through the window, Jack saw the candle burning in a corner of the room. He saw canvases and pot of paint. He saw a boy standing at an easel. The boy was painting a picture on large canvas. He's just a kid, said Jack with disappointment. He can't be Tipalo. So what? Said Annie. Maybe he can help us. She tapped on the grass. The boy looked up. He carried his candle to the window and opened it. He had reddish brown hair and big eyes. Hello, he said. Are you looking for someone? I'm Annie, and this is my brother Jack, said Annie. We're visiting Venice, and we were hoping to find a painter named Tipalo. You have done so, the boy said. My name is Lorenzo Tipalo. Lorenzo had a very serious manner. You're a painter too? Asked Annie. Yes, as you can see, I am painting right now. I help my father and my old brother with the painting, said Lorenzo, and when they are gone, I paint my own. I will even miss the last night of Carnival to paint. But why are you not there? We're on a mission, said Annie. We just escaped from the palace prison. We've got caught looking for the ruler of the seas. The ruler of the seas? Said Lorenzo. Why are you looking in the palace. The ruler of the seas is right here." "What?" said Jack. "The ruler of the sea is here?" Lorenzo smiled. Then he walked to the large cover canvas propped against the wall. He pulled up the cloth cover. He held up his candle and showed a painting of the beautiful woman resting her hands on the head of the golden lion. A man was giving coins to the woman. The man had a bare chest, the rock face, long dark hair, and a white beard. Behind him was a 3-point fishing spear. "My father had been working on this paint for some time," said Lorenzo. He pointed at the bearded man. "This Natron." "Natron?" said Jack. "He's the one of the god in Roman mythology, right?" "Yes, the ruler of the seas," said Lorenzo. "Oh, we thought the ruler of the seas was the ruler of Venice," said Annie. "We thought he lived in the palace on St. Mark's Square." Lorenzo laughed. "Oh no, the palace is just the home of our city's human ruler," he said. "The true ruler of all the sea is Neptune." "Neptune? Where does Neptune live, Lorenzo?" Annie asked. "He lives beneath the water in a beautiful palace made of coral and sparkling jewels," said Lorenzo. "But only a few people can actually see Neptune." "Like who?" said Annie. "Those with imagination, like my father, my brother, and myself," said Lorenzo. "We have heard the wave around Neptune roll like wild balls. We have seen his fishing spear raising high above the surface of the sea, gleaming in the moonlight." "That sounds great," said Annie. "Yeah, great," Jack said politely. "You guys must have really good imagination." "Thanks, Lorenzo." He turned to Annie. "I'm going to look at the research book some more." Jack walked back to the bench and pulled out their books. He felt totally discouraged. Neptune wasn't a real person. They've come to another dead end. Annie stayed by the window. "Lorenzo, one more question," she said. "Why is Neptune giving a gift to that lady?" "Neptune is offering the rich of the sea to Venice," answered Lorenzo. "So the lady in the painting is supposed to be the city of Venice?" said Annie. "Yes," said Lorenzo. "This is how my father thinks of Venice. She is the grand lady of the lagoon." Jack looked up from the book. He felt goosebumps on his skin. "Thanks, Lorenzo," said Annie. "You help us a lot." "You are welcome, Annie," said Lorenzo. "Good night." Then he closed the window. "Jack, Jack," said Annie, hurrying to him. "The grand lady of the lagoon is Venus." "I know, I heard," said Jack. "Now I understand our mission," said Annie. "We have to save Venice from the terrible disaster. We have to save all of Venice." Chapter 6. Disaster. "We have to save all of Venice?" said Jack. "That's a big responsibility. What do we have to save Venice from?" "Well, if Neptune's going to help us, it must have something to do with the water," said Annie. "Yeah, like a water that's floating the alleys," said Jack. "But the woman at the cafe told us not to worry about that," said Annie. "I'm still worried," said Jack. "Let's look up Flood in our Venice book." He found Flood in the index. He turned to the right page and read, "Most of the time, high water in Venice is not serious, but if survival conditions are present at the same time, a flood disaster can occur." "A flood disaster, that must be it," said Annie. "So what are the conditions? It lists them here," said Jack. He read, "The high tide, strong wind from the south, heavy flow of water from the mountain, severe storm at sea. There is a high tide tonight. The passenger with the bird mask in the gondola told us that," said Annie. Yeah, and the wind from the south. The water vane told us that, said Jack, and the water's floating down from the mountain. The woman at the cafe told us that, said Annie. Yeah, and the storm out at sea. I saw lightning when we crossed the water, said Jack. All the conditions are here, said Annie. Jack and Danny looked around. Water was now flowing safely from the alleyway into the small square. It had risen above their ankle. I get it now, said Jack. The water will just keep getting higher and higher until it destroys the whole city, and no one's paying attention. Neffen's the only one who can help us stop the flood, said Annie. But Neffen's not real, said Jack. I mean, he's a character in mythology, and mythology's not real life. It's okay, said Annie. Let's just take one step at a time. At midnight, two guys will tell us the right time, and then we should climb to the top of the tower, right? Right, said Jack. So what we have to do now is find these two guys, said Annie. Let's go back to the waterfront, said Jack. The man with the dog said everyone in Venice would be there for the fireworks. Jack put away their book. Then he and Annie traced their steps over the footbridge and back through the alleys. A lot of seaweed was floating in the narrow lane between buildings. Water is definitely flowing in from the sea, Jack thought. When they got to the St. Mark's Square, people were streaming toward the waterfront. Jack and Danny walked with the crowd. Everyone was talking and laughing as they looked up at the sky over the water, waiting for the fireworks to begin. No one paid attention to the dim wind or the seawater spilling over the side of the canal, soaking their shoes. Excuse me, Annie shouted. Can anyone tell us the time? No one answered. Just then, the first explosion of fireworks shook the night. The crowd cheered as blue and red showers exploded in the sky. In the distance, a cloud started to chime. Jack counted the bongs. 12, he said. It's the midnight now. According to that clock, more fireworks exploded over the waterfront, and another clock began clanging. This time, Jack counted only 11 bongs. He shook his head. This is crazy, he muttered. Jack looked around at the crowd. Can anyone tell us the real time? He yelled. Is it midnight yet? Can anyone tell us? No one answered. Not even one man, much less two. Everyone was eyeing over the dancing fireworks. Another clock began to sound. This one was much louder than the first two. Bang! This is hopeless, said Jack. Bang! We'll never know the right time, he said. Bang! Jack, look over there, said Annie. Bang! We'll never find the two men with the tower, said Jack. Bang! Jack, look, said Annie. Bang! All of Venice is about to drown in the flood, said Jack. Bang! And everyone's just cheering for fireworks, said Jack. Bang! Jack, look, said Annie. She pointed toward the clock tower in St. Mark's Square. Bang! Jack saw a huge bell on top of the tower. Two bronze statues were holding the club and striking the bell. Bang! The statues were two men. Bang! At midnight, two men will tell you the time, said Annie. Bang! The two men struck the bell for the 12th time and then stopped. Come on, cried Jack. We have to climb that tower. More fireworks thundered over the canal as Jack and Danny pushed their way back through the crowd. They ran to the St. Mark's Square and splashed their way to the tall tower with the two men on top. They ran to the arch inside of the tower and stepped inside. The air was damp and musty. Stairs, said Jack. He ran to the dark winding stairway and started up. Annie followed. They climbed and climbed until they reached the top of the tower. Jack was breathing hard as he pushed open the heavy door that led out onto the belfries. The two statues were frozen on either side of the bronze pedal. As soon as Jack and Danny stepped onto the trains, the wind blew their hats off their head. The air was filled with cracking and hissing sound as more fireworks burst through the sky. Everyone on the waterfront was clapping and cheering. "What's the next thing, Merlin? Tell us to do to find Neptune," and he shouted. Jack pulled out Merlin's ladder, holding on to it tightly as it flapped in the wind. He read aloud, "The king of the jungle will carry you there, no over the land, but high in the air." "The king of the jungle is a lion," said Annie. "So it sounds like we need to find the flying lion." "Right," said Jack. "But where?" How about that one?" said Annie. She was pointing over the trace railing. Jack looked down. Standing on the wide ledge below was the stone statue of the lion. Growing out of the lion's back were two powerful-looking curved wings. "But that's just a statue," cried Jack. "How can the statue take us anywhere?" Annie grinned. "I think it's time to use a little more magic," she said. Chapter 7. The King and the Ruler. "Oh yeah, of course," whispered Jack. He'd forgotten all about Teddy and Kathleen's book of magic rhymes. Jack pulled the book out of his backpack. He and Annie studied the table of contents. "Make a stone come alive," said Annie. "Make metal stop, turn into dogs, fly through the air." "That's it." "No," said Jack. We go back to make the stone come alive." "Why?" said Annie. "Because the lion's supposed to carry us," said Jack, "and he already had wings. But he's made of stone, so what we need to do is make him come alive." "All right," said Annie. "But then what?" said Jack. "Where will we go?" "Merlin's ladder said an angel of gold will show us the way, remember?" said Annie. "Angel of gold?" said Jack. "Where are we going to find that? And how will we find Nephians? How will we help to save Venus?" "Patience," said Annie. "If we need more magic, we'll go to the book." "Okay, but let's hurry," said Jack. He opened Teddy and Kathleen's book to the second rhyme. He took a deep breath. He looked down at the line on the ledge. Then he read a loud, clear voice. "Stone so silent, cold and hard, come mother lie, come mother scarred." A cracking sound seemed to come from deep within the lion's body. As Jack and Danny peered down at the statue, the lion's stone mane ruffled into the mass of shaggy fur. His stone back softened into the sleek golden coat. His stone wings stretched into big luminous feathers. "Wow," breathed Annie. Jack couldn't speak. Before their eyes, the statue had turned into the living lion with magnificent golden wings. The lion shook his mane and yawned. He had huge, sharp teeth and a long pink tongue. His ears twitched. His tough tail swayed back and forth. The lion crouched and leaped off the ledge like a cat. He spread his wings and caught a strong current of wind. His wings flapped. Then he began circling above the square. "Here, here!" Annie shouted. She waved wildly. The winged lion turned and flew back toward the tower. He glided silently onto the terrace, landing just a few feet away from Jack and Danny. He stared at them with his golden eyes. "You have helped us save Venus from the flood disaster," Jack said. "Can you carry us to the nephew?" said Annie. The lion paddled toward them. He kept staring straight at them. He tilted his enormous head and let out a long growl, as if he was trying to answer. "We have to climb on your back," said Jack. "I hope we don't hurt you," said Annie. The lion let out another growl, but he didn't sound angry. He sounded like he was telling them to hurry. He crouched down so they could climb down. "I'll go first," Jack said to Annie. "I'll hold on to his mane, and you hold on to me." Jack slipped off his backpack and dropped it onto the terrace. "Take the book of rhymes," said Annie. "Got it," said Jack. He tucked the book under his arm and carefully climbed onto the lion's back. Annie climbed on behind Jack and wrapped her arm tightly around his waist. Jack twitched his finger into Lion's mane. The mane felt surprisingly soft. "Okay, We're ready," said Jack. The lion stood up. He trembled silently. Then he leaped off the terrace. "Ah!" Jack yelled. The rhyme book slipped from under his arm and fell down into the floated square below. "Oh no, our book!" cried Jack. "Hang on!" cried Danny. The lion flapped his great wings and rose through the sky. Jack pressed his knees into the lion's warm back and clung to his mane. The lion floated up toward the fireworks. A shower of red sparks was opening like an umbrella. Boom and whistle filled the night. Fairy beats rained down through the darkness, whistling into the canal. "Help! We're heading straight into the fireworks!" cried Annie. The lions dipped and turned away from the fireworks. The red shower gave way to bursts of blue and green. "Which way do we go?" shouted Annie. As the lion flew back toward the square, Jack saw the golden square vane on top of the watch shower. It was in shape of an angel. "The angel of gold!" shouted Jack. The water vane was no longer pointing north with the wind. The angel was turning slowly around and around, pointing in all directions. "Fly closer to the angel," shouted Annie. The lion turned and flew toward the watchtower. As he drew near the golden angel, Jack called out, "Which way do we go? Which way?" The water vane turned in the far circle and then came to the complete stop. The angel was pointing toward the southeast, over the choppy water. "To the sea," Annie called over the wind. The lion turned and soared into the wind, his strong wings shining like gold. "Oh, wow!" cried Annie. The flying lion glided past the fireworks and over the wide canal, leaving Venice behind. He flew high over the stormy seas. Jack gripped the lion's mane with all his might. The lion sailed in and out of thick, fast-moving clouds. He flew above crashing waves and past a bolt of lightning. He flew through streaming winds and pelting rain. In the middle of the sea, far from land, the lion began circling above the water. What's he doing?" cried Jack. "Looking for Neptune," shouted Annie. "But Neptune's not real," said Jack. "I know," shouted Annie. "We'll have to use our imagination, like Lorenzo tried to imagine Neptune." Jack tried to imagine Neptune, but he was too scared to think clearly. "Neptune!" shouted Annie. "Rise from the water! Save Venice! Neptune, help us!" Annie's voice was lost in the wind. Jack wrapped his arms around the lion's neck. He buried his face in the lion's mane. He tried desperately to imagine Neptune. The lion let out a roar. With his hands under the lion's throat, Jack felt as if he himself were roaring. The lines rolled again. The rolling made Jack feel stronger and calmer. The details of Apollo's painting came into his mind. In his imagination, Jack saw Neptune, ruler of the sea, with his white beard and long hair, his strong arms and shoulders. He saw the lovely lady who was Venus, the grand lady of the lagoon. He saw Neptune giving the grand lady a gift. I see someone! I see something! Cried Annie. Jack opened his eyes and sat up. Where? He cried. In the water, said Annie, clinging to the lion's mane. Jack peered down into the darkness below. Lightning flashed over the sea. Jack saw the huge sea-fringed spear rising over the forming churning wave. The sea below the spear began to heave and below. Lightning flashed again, and Jack saw the great mass of swirl seaweed rising from the wave. Not seaweed's hair, Jack realized. The man's giant head and neck appeared above the surface of the water. Then the man's massive shoulders, chest, and arms rose above the storm-tossed sea. The giant loomed high above them, as tall as a mountain. Neptune! Cried Annie. The lion let out a roar, and then another and another. Lit by flashes of lightning, Neptune's face looked as if it had been weathered by thousands of years of wind and sand and waves. He had deep-set eyes, craggy cheeks, a white beard, and tangled hair hanging to his shoulders. Neptune, save Venus from the foe, cried Jack. Please, called Annie. Save the grand lady of the lagoon. Neptune looked at them for a moment. Then, with his powerful arms, he lifted his spear and thrust it down into the wave. Then the spear pressed the surface of the water. The sea made a gurgling sound, and then the lungs slurped as if water were floating down at a drain. Thunder and lightning stopped. The storm-tossed wave grew calm. The wind died to the gentle breeze. The clouds parted, and the stars shined brightly. Neptune raised his spear. He nodded to Jack and Danny and the lion. Thanks, cried Annie. Thanks, shouted Jack. The lion rolled again. Then Neptune began to sink back into the sea. His long arms, huge shoulders, thick neck, craggy face, floating hair, all disappeared. The front of his spear sank below the surface of the water. The ruler of the sea was gone. Only a shimmering whirlpool swirled in the moonlight. Chapter 8. Home by Day. Jack could hear the flapping of wings and the sound of the steady breathing. The lion flew in circle above the water whirlpool. Then he soared in the great arc up through the sky. We're getting back now, cried Annie. Jack lowered his head. He buried his face again and in the lion's shaggy, wet mane. He didn't look up. He was too tired to think as he gave himself over to the lion's wondrous powers of flight. The lion carried Jack and Danny back through the dawn. As they glided over the calm sea, the water sparkled with light from the rising sun. By the time the lion reached the skies over Venice, darkness had turned to the day. Shadow of lavender glowed above the city's tower, domes, and spires. Venice was filled with soft pink light. The lion flew to St. Mark's Square. He glided toward the clock tower, moved more and more slowly. Finally, he landed softly, like a cat, on the trays of the tower. Jack took a deep breath and stroked the lion's golden mane. Then he and Danny climbed off the lion's back. Jack's leg felt wobbly. He clutched the lion for a moment to get his balance. The lion let out a low growl. He turned his huge head and locked Jack's hand. Oh, his rough tongue felt like sandpaper. Jack laughed, and he laughed too, as the lion licked her. "You were magnificent," she said. "Yeah," said Jack. "That was a great ride." The lion let out a long purr. Then he pulled away from the two of them and paddled to the edge of the trace. The lion gave Jack and Danny one last look over his shoulder. Then he leaped over the trace railing and landed silently on the ledge below. Looking over the railing, Jack and Danny watched the live lion become a statue again. In an instant, his shaggy mane, golden back, powerful legs, tough tail, and feather wings all turned to curved great stone. "Oh," said Jack sadly, "he missed a living lion hidden inside the stone statue." A thundering bang made Jack and Danny jump. Beside them, the two brown men were striking their gigantic bell. They struck it six times. "It's 6 in the morning," said Annie. "We are gone a long time." "Yeah," said Jack. "Hey, look at the angel weather vane now," said Annie. Jack looked up at the gold angel on top of the watchtower. The weather vane was turning in the wind. It suddenly stopped and pointed toward the west. "Remember the last line from Merlin's letter?" said Annie. She recited them from memory. "An angel of gold will show you the way, to the sea by night and home by day." "I guess now that Venice is safe, the angel is telling us it's time to go home," said Jack. "Yep," said Annie. Jack picked up his backpack, and he and Danny headed down the stairs of the tower. When they reached the bottom, they stepped out of the darkness into the bright morning light. Only the few puddle of the water dotted the square. Carnival had ended. The people in costume had all gone home. The flock of pigeons fluttered noisily about the cobblestones, picking up orange peels, squashed grapes, torn ribbons, and feathers. There was no sign of Flo, except for some patch of seaweed. Jack turned and looked up at the clock tower. The morning sun cast a rosy light over the lion's stone body. The lion stood with pride and dignity, watching over St. Mark's Square. His great powers are secret to everyone but Jack and Danny. "Thanks again," said Annie to the lion. "Yeah, thanks," whispered Jack. Then he sighed, exhausted. "Home?" he said. Annie nodded. As Jack and Danny headed across the square, two sweepers were cleaning up the remains of Carnival. "Oh, wow!" cried Annie. She ran toward the sweepers. Just as they were about to scoop off the pile of trash, she snatched something from the ground. Annie ran back to Jack. "Look," she said, and held up Teddy and Kathleen's book of magic rhymes. "Oh, great!" said Jack. He took a little book from her. It was damp from the flood waters, but all the writing was as clear as ever. "We have 8 rhymes left," said Jack, for our next 3 journeys." She dropped the rhymes back into his backpack. As Jack and Danny left St. Mark's Square, they saw Venice starting to wake up. Ordinary, everyday Venice, not the Venice of Carnival. Men, women, and children were opening stalls and put out goods to sell. Carvers were sitting at their workbench. The cats were scratching in the chilly sunlight. The old man was walking his fat little dog, Rosa. He waved at Jack and Danny, and they waved back. "No one knows Venice was almost destroyed by the flood last night," said Jack. and no one knows we had helped her, said Annie. They just think we're a couple of rich clowns. Jack smiled. He'd forgotten all they were still wearing, their carnival costumes. Now their clown suits were dirty, torn, and soaking wet. Their hats were gone, and somewhere in flood water or on a flight of napkins, Jack's slipper had lost their balls. How will we get back to the treehouse now? Asked Annie. I don't know, said Jack. I guess we'll have to find a boat to take us there. As they scanned the waterfront, Jack saw the boy sitting in the edge of the water on a small stool. The boy was painting. Hey, isn't that Lorenzo DiPaolo? Said Jack. He and Danny hurried over to the boy. Hi, Lorenzo, said Annie. Lorenzo glanced up and smiled. Hi, Annie and Jack, he said. Jack and Danny looked at Lorenzo's painting. It shows pink light shimmering on blue water. That's beautiful, said Annie. It's only the background, said Lorenzo. He squinted at the carnival. Soon I will add gondolas and people. Then probably I will add something not real at all, something from my imagination. Hey, guess what? We saw napkins last night, said Annie. You did? Said Lorenzo. We found him far out at sea, said Jack. He looked just like he looked in your dad's painting. We wrote to him on the back of the flying lions and the clock tower, said Annie. Lorenzo nodded. I am glad napkins still live in the deep sea, he said. And I am glad of our lions still flies. Many people believe all the magic had left our world. The magic will never leave, said Annie. Not if painters like you and your dad keep painting. Lorenzo looked thoughtful. Then he picked up his small canvas and handed it to Jack. You and Danny take this and finish it, he said. Paint what you saw on your visit to Venus. Really? Said Jack. Are you sure? Yes, said Lorenzo. You and Danny have the gift of imagination. Use it to make something magical. We will, said Annie. Thanks, said Jack. We'll start painting as soon as we got home. Hey, Jack, said Annie. She pointed at the gondola docked nearby. It looked like the same boat that had brought them to Carnival the last night before. Inside were the same two people, the gondolier and the person with the lantern. Their candles were gone out, but they were both still wearing black cloaks, white gloves, and masks and bird beaks. Maybe they can take us back to the treehouse, said Jack. Excuse me, Annie called. Can you give us the ride back to the island? Annie pointed across the water. The gondolier nodded. Great, said Annie. Bye, Lorenzo. Thanks. And Jack and she and Jack hurried to the landing where the gondola waited for them. Chapter 9. The Painting. The gondolier silently helped Jack and Danny into the boat. They untied the gondola and pushed off from the landing. As the boat glided through the shallow waters, Jack looked back at Venice, bathed in early sunlight. The grand lady of the lagoon did seem timeless. The gondola moved around and bent up the narrow canal near the walled garden. The gondolier tied the boat to the striped pole. He then offered his gloved hand to Annie to help her out of the boat. Annie climbed out, and the gondolier offered his hand to Jack. As the gondolier helped Jack onto the landing, the boat rocked in the water. Jack tripped, pulling the glove off the gondolier's hand. Oh, sorry, said Jack. As he handed the glove back, he gasped. On the gondolier's finger was the pale blue glass ring. Before Jack could say anything, the gondolier pulled his glove back on and pushed the boat away from the landing. Hey, hey, Jack sputtered. Teddy? Kathleen? Wait, come back! Neither of the masked people looked back at Jack and Danny. Teddy? Kathleen? Where? Said Annie. His glove. It came off. There was a blue glass ring on his finger, said Jack. Jack and Danny watched the gondola disappear into the blaze of sunlight shining on the water. Had it just glided around the bend, or had it vanished altogether? Are you sure it was them? Said Annie. Well, I guess anybody could wear the glass ring, said Jack, but still, maybe Morgan and Merlin told them to watch over us, said Annie. Yeah, to make sure we'd be safe, said Jack, and be patient and follow instructions, said Annie. Right, said Jack. Well, Venus wasn't destroyed by the flood, so I guess we passed our first test. I think we did, said Annie, with Lorenzo's canvas tucked under his arm. Jack led the way into the walled garden. Annie followed him to the rope ladder. When they climbed into the treehouse, Jack pulled Merlin's letter from his backpack. He unfolded and pointed to the word of Frog Creek. I wish we could go there, he said. Goodbye, Grand Lady of the Lagoon, said Annie. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. A nappy wind rustled the Frog Creek trees. Jack and Danny were wearing their jeans and jacket again. It was dawn. Annie sighed. I wish we had a little more time to visit Venus, she said. I'm glad Lorenzo gave us his painting to finish, said Jack. That'll be like living our trip all over again. Cool, said Annie. We better leave Morgan's research book here, said Jack. He pulled the book out of his backpack and put it on the floor. And this. He took out Teddy and Kathleen's book of magic rhymes. Wait, said Annie. Don't you think we should take the book of rhymes with us for safekeeping? Jack nodded. We can't use them in Frog Creek, he said. We'll just keep it safe till we go on our next mission. That's what I was thinking, said Annie. Come up, hurry, before Mom and Dad wake up. Jack put the books of rhymes back into his pocket. Carrying Lorenzo's canvas, Annie climbed down the ladder. Jack followed. As they walked through the chilly dawn woods, Annie held up Lorenzo's canvas. The shimmering light of water of Venice looked just like they had in real life. So what should we put in our painting? She asked. Gondolas, of course, said Jack, with people in costumes, wearing black capes and bird masks, said Annie, a fancy dress in wings. And we could paint the clock tower in the background, said Jack, with the two men striking the bell, and the watchtower too, said Annie, with the gold angel on top. And the ruler's palace, said Jack, and the old man and Rosa walking along the canal, said Annie, and of course Lorenzo, and the lion flying across the sky, said Jack, and Nephine's spear rising out from the water, with Nephine himself peeking out, said Annie. We'll show just the top of his head and his mysterious eyes. That's a lot of stuff for one painting, said Jack. We didn't even put ourselves in yet, said Annie. We'll paint ourselves on the back of the lion, said Jack, wearing our costume suit and red slippers. Yeah, with huge smile on our faces, said Annie, like we're thinking. Wow, wow, wow. Jack laughed. The chilly dawn breeze swept through the bare trees. The bell of the Frog Creek Crunch began to cry. Jack and Danny took off running for home.